Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shameless Era. I'm Lindsay Dalen.
I'm Justine Eno.
And this week we are so excited to welcome our guest, Danielle Hessler from 212 Consulting and the Agency, a local HR consultancy here in Grand Prairie. She is a wife, mom, boss who we are just always so thrilled to be around. Every time we see Danielle, she just lights up our space, and we're just so pumped to have her here. So Danielle, thank you very, very much for being on the podcast with us today. How's it going?
I'm great, and thanks for having me, ladies. I am excited to take some time out of my day today to spend it with you. I sort of echo what you have to say, and always enjoy seeing you both in a room as well, and get the opportunity to get to chat with you. So it'll be fun.
Well, I feel like your vibe has just always been so easy to be around. You are such a champion of women who truly supports other women. And I've just felt that support from you personally throughout life. And after Shameless Ambition, the conference, you were a sponsor there last year. Thank you so much. You gave me some really candid, helpful feedback. And when I look back on it now, it really speaks volumes to why you're so successful in HR, because you know how to articulate things and how to provide constructive feedback and really make a person feel seen in the moment. And so I can't imagine that HR was where you imagined you'd land when you were kind of in school back in the day, but tell us a little bit about how you landed in HR and what brought you to 212 today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to hear that candid feedback because I can't even remember it. I do remember connecting with you after Lindsay, but whether it's today or another day, I want to go back to that and hear what that actually was. In regards to Shameless Ambition, I was so excited about that conference in Grand Prairie. I felt like it was the first, and it likely was, first woman-focused entrepreneurial spirit conference, and really gave me an opportunity where I was at in my career to attend something and feel like I was a part of a community. Because a lot of times it does feel a little bit lonely, when you own your own business and you're making things up as you go, it can feel a little bit lonely. So I was just super excited about that community that you started, and I can continuously see that grow in what you're doing with the podcast here now as well. So my journey into HR, really, I didn't know I wanted to be in HR. I fell into it in college. So I went to school in the States. I had a hockey scholarship at a NCAA hockey scholarship, and had the opportunity to play hockey while going to school. So when I went to university, the schools I chose were based on who had the best hockey teams and who was nationally ranked. Like, let's be honest. I did focus a little bit on their programming, but it was more the hockey program that was driving where I was going to go to school. Going to school in the States, you have a bit more flexibility to start university or college and not have to pick your actual degree or focus until you're about a year and a half in. So I knew I had wanted to do something in business. I knew that I was sort of interested in law, but wasn't sure if I wanted to go to school that long. Ended up taking a human resources course and then a labor relations course, which is more on the legal side of HR, and really liked it. So that's how I landed in HR and I got my BA in human resources management, and I minored in sociology and psychology. And that's where I really started to love school, actually. Like going through school, going through K to 12, it was just get done what you had to get done. Going to university and diving into those courses that I really had an interest in, I finally started to actually excel and maybe put some of my focus into school. To be completely honest, though, I wasn't sure if I wanted to work in HR. I just was still going to school to play hockey. And I was thinking, after I graduated, I was going to either go over to Europe and play some hockey, or I was going to work a year in the States somewhere and get some experience doing that. Hockey in Europe didn't work out, and I actually graduated in 2008. So one of the biggest recessions in the States, not a lot was happening there. So I ended up deciding to come back to the country because where has opportunity always, but Grand Prairie and the Peace Country. And even I got an opportunity to work as a human resources consultant back here in Grand Prairie, and thought I'd only stay a year. Then I was going to head back to the States and get an assistant coaching job and look to get my master's at the same time while doing that. But over 15 years later, life has taken over, and I'm still here and happy to be here.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that journey. And the fact that you had the opportunity to go play hockey in the States must have been so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It feels like a different like it feels like a lifetime ago, and that I was a different person when I did that. But cool to think back to those experiences, like really, really instrumental in creating who I have become. And I didn't realize that at the time. Like at the time, I was just playing hockey. We were playing on a nationally ranked hockey team. We went to the Frozen Four our senior year. Unfortunately, we didn't come home with the national title that year. We got second, but just some really awesome experience, which was great.
So amazing. I can't even like stay on figure skates. So I always, whenever I watch hockey, I have such an admiration for it, for anyone who plays, because I'm just like the coordination that it must take to like with the stick and the puck and the skating, and it's like a lot. So yeah, I think that's really cool. I didn't know that about you until I started scrolling through your Instagram about how much hockey plays a part of your life and has played a part of your life, obviously leading up till now, and now your family's life as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
And on that note, though, one of the things that I had down that I wanted to ask you about was hockey has always been such an important part of your life. And so how do you feel like it's influenced the woman that you are today? You kind of alluded to it a little bit there as, you're a different woman now, but I'm sure so much of what you took away from that time and the sport is still a large part of who you are today.
Yeah. And I think, even now today, that's sort of an uncomfortable question for me. I'm like, how has hockey influenced me? Has it really influenced me that much? But I mean, it has, and it's a huge part of who I am. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have gotten to play, and at the level that I got to play at, and have the experiences that I had. So I really, how has hockey shaped the woman that I am? I guess I'm struggling here. It's a tough question.
Thought it was like, I mean, if I may, like to work with a team full of women in such a competitive sport, I think
That's where I was going to.
like even from a young age would have to shape you into being a supportive woman, because if you're not going to be, you don't belong on the team, because to be a part of that team, you have to lift each other up. And when your teammate fails, you have to support them still and still be their biggest cheerleader. And then you hope you get the same in return. And if you don't, they're not your people. So I think, I mean, any team sport, really, I think they're so crucial to young kids, but I think if you like, it would just be so innate in you, which probably makes you why you're so good at the career you're in, is you have such a good way of communicating with people. And yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would.
I I love that, Justine. And it's definitely, in regards to working with a team, that's where I feel most comfortable. I can work independently and I have no problem with that, but I want to work as a team. I want to be a small part of a big project and work with others around me that bring different strengths than what I have. So I think that innate ability, I think you mentioned as a word, that is something that's just a part of me because I've played hockey ever since I've been a little girl. I actually started as a figure skater. And then at the age of 12 moved over to hockey. Um, but yeah, I'm really comfortable in being in the space and being a part of a team and working towards a common goal, and then checking one thing off the list and going to the next. That is something that I've done cyclically each year with a new team in the hockey world. So it just naturally to me, I guess. Now, I also think, you talk about walking into a space and a team where everybody is super supportive of everybody. That doesn't necessarily happen all the time. Even in the dressing room, I've worked with some teams where we've had some pretty big conflicts that we've had to work through as well. So as much as you'd like to say you walk in the room, you're all wearing the same jersey, right? And playing for the same team, doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be any conflict on that team and things that we have to work through. And I think I'm comfortable with that too. I'm comfortable with different personalities and conflict coming up, and us just working through that conflict together to achieve the goals that we've mapped out at the start of every season.
I just think that the things that you just said about being on a team really lend to why you're such an excellent leader in your business, Danielle. You exude leadership and you exude the kind of just camaraderie and sportsmanship that helps create a healthy, productive team. And so from what you just described in hockey, I feel like that's where so much of your talent and skills in the world of HR probably naturally comes from. And I have loved watching you lead your team and promote your services and your business and how you can help other businesses create and support their teams. And so the work that you're doing is just, it's so important, and you're doing it at such a level that is certainly being noticed, and people are taking note of how you're putting 212 out there into the community. And so I'd love for you to share just a little bit more about the services that you offer, because I think it's important that people know what they can access through 212 and the agency.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
Cole's notes, friend. Cole's notes.
212 Consulting and the agency are both boutique firms here in Grand Prairie. Most of our clients are right here in the Peace Country, but we do service businesses and organizations that are across Alberta. 212 Consulting really focuses on offering general HR consulting to our clients. So anything related to employees, we touch on, whereas the agency is our specialized recruitment division. Our approach with our clients really differs from client to client based on their needs. When we are starting to work with a client, we really take the time to listen and to learn about business. I have a strong belief that HR is a support service to a business. So we can't provide long lasting and valued human resources services without having an understanding of the business, of the workplace culture, of the pain points that might exist, or of the items that are keeping the business owner up at night. So we really focus on listening and learning about the clients before we provide any recommendations or guidance on where to go next. From having that listening and learning about their business and building the relationship with the client, then we look at using our experience and knowledge to provide some recommendations based on best practice. Sort of where the 212 name comes from. It means a lot to me, and as well as our team that I get the opportunity to work alongside with.
Can you share why it's so special?
Yeah, so I had asked that question, like 212 consulting, and now that I'm in, and I mean, you being in marketing and having a ton of knowledge in marketing, I'm like, man, why did I name my company that? Like, but it just does mean so much to me, and I'll tell you more. As you know, I played hockey, and we gave out a 212 award at the end of every game, and there's a pretty big leadership concept behind 212 degrees. At 212 degrees, water starts to boil, and boiling water can create steam, and steam has enough power to run a steam engine, a train. So at 211 degrees, though, nothing is happening. Water is stable. Nothing is happening. And it's just that one extra degree that causes the water to boil and the steam to be created, and potentially a steam engine to run from that, right? So we gave a 212 award at the end of every game. Wasn't necessarily to the player who scored the winning goal, or to the goalie who got a shutout. It might have been the player that wasn't dressed that game, or that sat on the bench, or the player that got hurt, whatever it might be. So the concept of 212 has stuck with me forever. I look for that number everywhere, and that's where 212 comes from. 212 Consulting, and then the agency, a 212 company. It's all about going that little extra mile for our client, or putting that extra degree of effort in for them.
I love that. That's a great story.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
a beautifully marketable story.
And I like, side note, I never knew that story until you just shared it. And I loved the name 212 before even knowing that story. I think it has like a way of staying with you. Like it has a ring to it,
Rolls
or
off the tongue.
yeah, like I really like it. But now I love it even more knowing the story and the reason behind the name. But yeah, I think it's great.
That's good to know. It's when I'm booking a hotel room or something, and they're getting my email address, and I'm like, it's Danielle at 212 Consulting, and I have to be TWOTWELVE. Like, it sort of just like, I don't even think about it anymore. But when I have to spell that out, I'm like, man, did I do that right? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
I would always doubt how to spell 12. I would second guess that in my head all the time. I'd be like TW. I'd have to like visually see it.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
But hey, that's just me. So we had the privilege of sitting with you at was it the Women of Influence?
Women of
right?
Influence.
Yeah. And then I've also met you at Shameless. I've just been graced with being always welcomed at your table at these local events, and that's how I personally know you. I know Lindsay's known you a lot longer. But anytime I've ever encountered you or came up to you and had a conversation, you've been so welcoming, and so just open to a conversation, whatever that looks like. And you work with a lot of women. You've obviously played sports with women your entire life. So it's always not the easiest thing to navigate. There's bumps in the road. And how do you work through that? Like, how do you take your skill set and weave that into being, how you use it as your compass to navigate sometimes the trickier situations?
Yeah, I think everyone has a story, and everyone is in a different season of their life. So I really try to approach my work with an open heart and an understanding of everyone might be in a different season, and a totally different season than what I'm at. And I have the opportunity to learn from everyone else around me as well. So with work, for sure, with work. Personally, I find this harder to do. And maybe it's because I'm most comfortable with the personal people around me, but at work, I am really able to put things aside, focus in on, you know, the client or my colleague or, you know, fellow board member or whoever it might be. I'm just able to, like I said, put things aside, understand that they're coming or have their own lives going on, and just work through things. It's something that comes very naturally to me, and something that really I feel really comfortable doing that. So
I
I
think,
hope that answers your question,
Yes.
Jesse.
yeah, and honestly, I think that just speaks volumes to your authenticity and just, you know, who you are as a woman today, Danielle, because you just seem very comfortable in your own skin and who you are, and you're just so easy to be around that, like, it really is refreshing. And that's a large part of why we wanted to have you on the podcast, because we just like hanging out with you.
I think it was actually after that day that we were at the Women's of Influence together, and we were driving back, and we're like, we should really have Danielle on the podcast one day. It's just yeah, like it was a no-brainer, really,
Totally.
honestly. But you do have such a great energy that it's kind of just like, even if someone doesn't know you, it's like, oh, I'll go talk to her. You just like exude a very welcoming
Open vibes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
For sure.
On the kind of, you know, just like women in business front, I'm sure you can agree that sometimes HR is an undervalued component of a business. People tend to not necessarily give it the attention that maybe they give to their financials or accounting or even their marketing. And what advice would you give to a woman in business from an HR perspective who's just starting out? Like, what should she kind of be aware of, and what should she be doing to set herself up for success?
Yeah, from a perspective, I know I do face that too. And I think we as HR professionals need to do a better job at communicating the value that we do bring, because it doesn't necessarily show itself in numbers really tangibly, right? There's all these intangibles that are created. So we have to talk about that a lot. And I think now more than ever, with there being a labor market shortage and not going to get through that, that's not going to change. It's only going to get harder and harder and harder to find good people to work for your business. While it gets harder to find good people, you really need to do a better job at retaining the good people that you already have. For women in business generally, I think we do have to be on point a bit better, always. We always are being judged. And I don't necessarily think that this is a bad thing. Like I think that we're just being watched a little bit more closely. So being on point generally in regards to HR, I really believe that women in business need to be true to themselves and listen to their intuition. We are intuitive human beings, and our gut can tell us a lot about how to react in situations. So listen to that intuition when you're dealing with people that surround you. Try to surround yourself with the best people as possible, and that will go a super long ways.
I know HR is like the worst pain point in our business. Like it's
So hard.
it's awful. Like the retaining of good people. It also like requires you have a really good culture, but it's like, how do you have a great culture for so many different people? And like, it's the biggest headache. So kudos to what you guys do, because yeah, it's hard. It's so hard to like, and I can't even imagine to balance the client and the employee, because you guys are doing both, right? With 212, you're managing the business itself or the client, and then with the agency, you have the employee side of it. So it's kind of like that balance of both. And yeah, I mean, the employee side is like therapy. You're a therapist. So
When
I
I
think too,
Sorry.
I think too with that too, it's just for me, there's not a black and white answer for things. So we really live in the gray, and we really, that listen and learn thing that I talked about in understanding our clients, and we need to do that for every single situation before we can provide good advice for them to handle the situations that come up. So while we are working with clients, we too are listening to our intuition, and maybe responding one way for one situation and then a different way for another. Of course, we have legislation that we have to follow, and there's other regulatory bodies that are out there too that we have to be aware of and take into consideration. However, it's very much so in the gray, and very much so ebb and flow for sure.
Well, I really hope that, even just this podcast helps shine a bit more of a spotlight on the importance of HR, because having come from a background in group benefits and working in a similar lane of taking care of employees, one of my all-time favorite quotes to share with my clients was from Richard Branson. And he said, "Clients do not come first, employees come first, because if you take care of the employees, they will take care of the clients." And this concept was always just like so powerful to me, because if you take care of your people, they will take care of your business. And so HR should be a fundamental component of a business. It should have so much more importance and awareness placed on it, because the ripple effects of just taking care of your people go so far beyond the day to day.
Well, I think it should be like one of those pillars when you're registering your business as like a business. It should be like accountant, lawyer, HR.
Yeah.
Because if you start your HR so solid, or have a consulting company come in and help you build that from the start, I feel like it's a lot more productive and a lot less fixing of things. It's more proactive, right? To have that from the beginning versus all of a sudden having 10 or 15 employees and being like, I guess I should probably have some policies. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's anyone I've ever talked to, I'm like, yeah, get HR. Like, and if you don't know, like, hire someone, because it's so important, and it can bite you in the ass, like bad. So
Hi, ladies. I lost you there for a second, but we're back. Just saying, if you guys ever want some extra side work with sales with 212 Consulting, you're welcome to come to come do that. And I actually, Lindsay, I remember you mentioned that quote back at Shameless Ambition, and so good. I wrote it down. I've used it a number of times, and it's so true to me. Like, you need to take care of your team
well,
so
there is
they can do the work.
of you, right? Like to the client, they might not actually be a true reflection of you, but to the client, that's what the client sees, is like, that is your business, and how they show up is your business, whether it is or not. So it's really important to make sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, on that note, you're the professional. So like, what's it like in your team? You have a fabulous team of women that you work with. I think I've met all of them personally by now, and they're just wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your team at 212, and the culture that you're creating, and maybe some of the challenges that you faced as an all-female team.
Yeah, I think, first off, I work with the best team, the best people. Like, they truly are. They're not only my colleagues, but they are great friends of mine. And I know there's many people that say stay away from working with your friends, but that is not my belief.
Yeah, I think we've had this discussion before of like laying out the contract first. You know, like if you are really gonna go deep into a business or your friends, of just being like, okay, if shit falls apart, we want to save our friendship. Like our friendship's really important. So let's lay out like the icky stuff right now. Let's talk about it while we're still friends. And in the event that something bad happens, at least we had the conversation first. And, you know, we kind of maybe know how to navigate it from there, you know?
Yeah, I was listening to one of your podcasts where you I think it was 48th, I think that was talking about that. And I thought it's just so amazing. Yeah, which is cool and something that we just do in HR, right? We have contracts, we have policies and procedures that guide us. We have all of these things. With that being said, though, we are growing and we haven't, because we've been so busy with the work, we haven't necessarily done an excellent job in ensuring that these things kept up and were built. So we are building some of these things on the side. I do agree that that's such an important thing to do, to make sure that you have those contracts in place and so on. But yeah, like I was saying, I get the opportunity to work with some of my best friends. Um, we are working all remotely. So, you know, we don't have office space, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges, to be honest, is that we are working remotely. Now, I love that. I love that we get the opportunity to work remotely. However, it does create some challenges for us as well. Right before COVID, I was actually just going to start the hunt of looking for some space for us to be working out of. And thankfully, COVID hit, and I don't have that huge overhead expense to worry about. I also have 3 kids, and you know, I'm a busy mom and wife, and I love the flexibility that working remotely brings to me. I get to see my kids off in the morning. Also, you know, for the most part, I'm here when they get home from school. So that's nice. And then our clients like us to be in their space. And we like to be in their space too, because to deliver great HR services, I think we need to be and to see their space before we can provide them with the best advice possible. So, outside of the hours of sending my kids off to school and being home when they get home from the bus, I'm pretty much living in my car. Personally, I'm in my car. I'm going from to client to client. That's my mobile office, and it's great. Where Courtney and Daleen a lot are in their own homes, working from home, and
And we're back.
yeah, so and we're back. So Daleen and Courtney are working from home and you know, keeping in good touch with our clients and doing their work from there and sometimes coming out to go see clients as well. But as a team, I feel like we need to, and we talk about this lots as a team, but we need to do a better job at staying connected and communicate. I don't have the opportunity to pop my head out of my office and yell something down the hall to Courtney and Daleen and have the opportunity to do that back to me. So we do try and do a better job at communicating. We also try and do a pretty good job at being honest with each other with how things are going and how we're feeling. Get the opportunity to walk by Courtney or Daleen's office and see that maybe they're down today. So if there is something going on with them, I want to know, because I want to be there for them and help them out we just really try and do a better job at staying communicative as well as being really open with each other. As an all-women team, I think we have to be always too. We're always being watched. We're not only by men, but also as by females. So I think I was about this question a little bit and thinking, you know, where does that feeling come from? How do I know that that happens? So I no longer play hockey. I'm old and washed up and will never go back down that avenue, but I do get the opportunity to coach and have coached our oldest right from when he started playing hockey and still do today. And I feel a little bit extra pressure on the ice. I feel like I have to be better. And I'm not okay. I'm kind of okay. I'm totally okay with that. Sorry. I like to be the underdog. I like to prove that I have. And I think we do that with 212 and the agency as well.
Do you feel like that comes from women? Like, do you feel like that place in you, it comes from thinking that women are always underestimated? Like we're not cut out for the job, or, you know, like we don't have enough skill for the job, or, you know, what I mean? Do you think that's where it comes from, or does it come from a different place?
Yeah, I think it does come from that we are underestimated and don't have the skills and you know, when I step on the ice to coach, and I'm just assistant coaching now, but I sort of I have to prove myself. I have to share my hockey background in playing NCAA hockey and almost winning a national championship and being a part of that team, and where maybe the dad that's on the ice has just played beer league their whole life, and that's okay too. I'm not judging. They still have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
But they're not getting questioned like I would be. And so being on point, showing up and delivering your best is so important.
Yeah. I feel like that's so valid though. Like we're
So
just very underestimated in every aspect, that it's kind of like you almost have to over show up.
Well, and for me, it
Sometimes.
just lights a fire under me. Like, go ahead, underestimate me. I dare you. Let's go. Watch me, you know, and that was so much of where like shameless ambition came from. It came from a place of just like, I felt like I had something to prove, and I wanted to just, you know, show the world what I was made of and what I was capable of and what I wanted to create for women, because you know, I've had the experience of being burned by women, as I'm sure have you, girlfriend, and it's not sweet and it's not fun. And so I can appreciate the feeling of just wanting to show up and show out and, you know, put your best foot forward. So on that note though, what does shameless mean to you? I'm really excited to hear your answer to this. And I don't even feel
Oh.
asking because I sent it to you.
You totally sent it to me at a time, and I was like saying to my husband last night, I'm like, what does shameless mean to me? You know, I think shameless means being true to myself, like and honoring who I am and my own journey and where I'm at in my own seasons of life, and you know, just being true to myself. To be honest with you, I really think that if I maybe asked myself that question 5 years ago of what does shameless mean to me, I'd be like, ooh, that's kind of a key word. Like shameless. I'm not shameless. Like, no way, not me. But now I'm like, yeah, I'm like, damn right, I'm shameless. And you know, kudos to you, Lindsay. What you did for sure with Shameless Ambition probably helped shape that a lot. But there is so much power in that word, and I feel like you need to be true to yourself to be shameless. I've had things in my career. I've had a great career. I've had amazing jobs. Had the opportunity, to work now with 212 Consulting and the agency, but I've had times where I wasn't being true to myself and I needed to step back. And in addition to the question, I know you gave me these questions, so what does shameless mean to me? It really does mean being true to myself. And then a time in my life where I felt like I stepped.
And we're back.
And we're back. Country living. I'm at home at my acreage.
We'll have a luxury of that, but the downside is the internet sometimes. Yeah.
Usually my internet is super strong. Today is not one of those days. So
there was a time in your life when you stepped into your shameless era.
Time in my life where I stepped into my shameless era. I guess, have I totally stepped into my shameless era? Probably not. I probably have still a lot of growth to get to where I'm always being completely true myself. But I can think about the first time I stepped into my shameless era, and that was when I left my job at the college. I was working for Grand Prairie Regional College, which is now Northwestern Polytechnic, and on the HR team there. And I was the director of HR before I left the college, and I loved my job. Loved my job. Working for the college was such a cool thing to be back in the post-secondary environment. And I mentioned, college for me is where I really came into my academic career, I guess, and looking around, seeing the students, everybody studying, lots of free speech, open talk. Just was a really cool place to work, and a lot of amazing people around me. But while I was working at the college, my husband and I and our family struggled through some big things. We, in between our oldest and our middle child, we actually lost a child to trisomy 13. So we had a little boy, lost him. And I was working at the college at the time. Then shortly after that, got pregnant with our daughter and had her. And life was just spinning.
Right.
Loved my job, but life was spinning and I couldn't keep up. And I just, through that time, like I think back to that and I just, you just do the next thing. You just take the next step. You just keep going. And I really put my head down and just kept going. But at the same time, I was looking at my kids, and my kids were 5 and 2 at the time when I was working as the director of HR, and I was missing it.
Yeah.
They were growing up so fast.
Aww.
And I just felt like a step back.
Yeah.
To be able to take so many steps forward. And instead of just continuing to like pull my feet out of the mud and take another step, another step, another step. So I did. I feel like that was the first time I stepped into my shameless era. And I made one of the scariest decisions of my life. I decided to step away from work and be a full-time mom. I continued to support the college through some projects, but that was my focus. And I was able to heal a lot through that time. And it really, and, you know, through that time, 212 Consulting just grew off the side of my desk. I had no intention of starting a consulting firm. I had some friends and family approach me to do some work for them. I had some other colleges from across Alberta reach out to me to do some work for them. And 212 Consulting just organically grew. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful that I was true to myself and that I took a step back and was there for my family, because that's what I needed to do to even be there for myself.
What a power
Yeah.
move, girlfriend. Good job. I mean, like,
Really sorry for your loss also. That's like never easy to go through as women. And I think that lots of times we do just power through it instead of feeling it. We just, especially if you have other kids, right? You just get busy. So you just bury your head and you just keep going
Stuff
when
it
it's something
down.
you really
Yeah.
actually do, need to process and go through. We just did a podcast recently with Angela Ditch, and she asked us a question that I like to refer back to. I've done it a few times now. She goes, some people think shamelessness is without conscious. And I like to just add into there, as you said, you don't know if you were always shameless, or if like 5 years ago you would have been like, oh, yeah, of course I'm not shameless. Because I think a lot of people do think it is meaning without conscious. Like, I'm just gonna be like, excuse my language, but be like, fuck the world, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And that's not the case at all. It's just being so authentic to yourself and being okay with what that looks like.
It has such an intimate meaning to me, and I really do ask myself often, like, Lindsay, are you being shameless in this moment? Are you pursuing what matters to you and what is your priority? And, that was such a shameless move of you to give up such a massive, successful career and choose your family and choose your health and choose your healing. And I feel like that probably was your first giant step into your shameless era. And, we're just going to keep welcoming you every little step you take, pulling you in, girlfriend.
And I might add, it's always a work in progress.
Like,
Like,
everyone's a work in progress.
I don't even, like, there's situations I would say weekly for me where I'm just like, oops. Definitely wasn't my most authentic self in that moment. My bad. But
You live and you learn.
you do, right? And that's all it is like that we're practicing. I think that's the important part, is that we're actually doing the work. We're taking the steps, putting in the steps and the reps, as Lynn's likes to say.
Steps and the reps,
So,
yeah. Danielle, we could chat all afternoon, and hopefully we can get together and chat in person soon, but we're coming up on the hour, and I had mentioned that I would love for you to share a quote with our listeners that resonates with you, something that are kind of your words of wisdom that you live by, or something that inspires you. So do you have something for us to close out this episode?
Yeah, I'm just looking for it here. So, there's so many quotes. I love quotes. Like, I could just look and Google them. And, if you look around my house, I have quotes up everywhere, and there's so much. But there is a Maya Angelou poem called I've Learned. And I've known the statement that she's made, that people will forget what you said, forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That's something that's always guided me. But she has a full, and to the last part of that poem, she writes, I've learned that whenever I decide something with an open heart, I usually make the right decision. I've learned that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. I've learned that every day you should reach out and touch someone. People love a warm hug or just a friendly pat on the back. I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. We did. We literally have like, and to end it, people will never forget how you made them feel. So, yeah, I just love those words. I feel like that whole poem has so much. And if you get the opportunity to read it, please do. But that last chunk just fills my heart. And I just want to say, like both of you, I really appreciate what you're doing in this space, what you're doing in this community. But even the super kind things that you've said to me here today, and that I know that you're saying to other people when I'm not in the room. And I just get that feel from you guys, and I appreciate it a ton.
Oh yeah, we got you.
I'm so happy you feel the love, babe, because
Yeah.
it's, it really is just our mission to empower women, to create a community, to, just support one another, cheer each other
I
on.
don't remember where I've heard it or if it was just in a conversation with a random person, but there's nothing uglier than a woman who will trash talk another woman, right? Like in the presence. And there's nothing more beautiful than a woman who will lift up another woman in the presence of other people. Like I think it's so easy to boost up these wonderful women that we have in our lives, but it also is a good reflection, like on ourselves, that we're comfortable enough to lift up other women. Like it doesn't, deter us at all or anyone else. And I think that lots of women could take that lesson of like, it doesn't make you less to lift someone up, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Danielle, well, thank you so much for your time here today. That was so much fun chatting with you, and, small technical difficulties aside, I think this was an incredible episode that, hopefully our listeners learned a lot from and are able to just see, their relationships from a different perspective in, both home and in the workplace. They can see HR from a different perspective, and hopefully see you from a different perspective. And is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners before we close out the episode?
No, I appreciate you ladies, and I just hope everyone.
Sorry, if someone's wanting to get in contact with 212 or the agency, how do they do so? Just so they know.
Well, yeah, you can find us online, and then all of the different socials. You can email me directly at Danielle at twotwelve See, it's like a ring. I will never forget that.
I was actually really hoping you were going to do that. That was so nice. Okay, well, thank you very much, Danielle. We hope you have the best rest of your day, and thank you again for stepping into the Shameless Era with us.
Thanks, ladies.